When I was a boy, my Uncle Ray did the same thing every night before bed. He would walk into that kitchen, take a little box of salt down off the shelf, and pour a good handful straight down the drain. Then he ran the hot water for a slow 10 count, flipped the light off, and turned in. I thought the man was superstitious. I figured it was one of those things old folks did for no reason at all, like knocking on wood. I used to roll my eyes at it, if I am honest with you. Well, ask me how I know he was not superstitious. I went and spent the next 30 years on the job, and I have pulled apart more kitchen lines than I can count. Some of them packed solid with grease as hard as a candle. And here is what I noticed. The houses that stayed clear, year after year, were the houses where somebody was doing exactly what Uncle Ray did, quietly, every night, for pennies. So tonight, before you go to bed, I want you to pour some salt down your drain. And over the next few minutes, I am going to give you the old plumber reasons why, one at a time, because there is real sense behind it. And it is the cheapest maintenance you will ever do on your house. Stick with me, because number 6 is the one almost nobody thinks about, and it is the real reason your line clogs in the first place. Let me start with the thing most people get wrong, and that is number 1. Salt does not dissolve grease. I want to be straight with you right from the jump, because you will read all kinds of nonsense out there. Salt is not some magic degreaser that melts the gunk away. What salt is a scrubber. Every grain of salt is a hard little crystal with sharp edges on it. When you pour a handful down the drain and chase it with hot water, all those thousands of tiny crystals go tumbling down the inside of your pipe, scraping against the wall the whole way down. That is scouring. It is the same reason your grandmother scrubbed out a cast iron skillet with salt instead of soap. The salt bites into the film and knocks it loose without hurting the good surface underneath. Down in your drain, that film is grease, a thin, greasy skin that coats the pipe a little thicker every time you rinse a pan. You cannot see it, but it is there, and it is sticky. The salt scours it right off. The hot water softens it first, so it lets go easier, and the salt does the scrubbing. Simple as that. Now hold that picture in your head, because in a minute I am going to tell you why that same scouring does not lay a single scratch on your pipes. And that part surprises just about everybody. That brings me to number 2, and this is the question I get every time. If salt scours, does it wear out my pipes? Does it corrode them? For the little bit we are talking about here, the answer is no. Let me tell you why. Because once you understand it, you stop worrying. The salt is not sitting down there dry, grinding away like sandpaper for a week. You pour a handful, chase it with water, and the whole business is gone down the line in seconds. In that short time, it scours the soft grease, which is barely hanging on, and slides right past the hard pipe wall, which is not going anywhere. Think about the difference. A grease film has about as much grip as a smear of candle wax. Your PVC, your copper, your old cast iron, that is a whole different league of tough. The soft stuff comes off. The hard stuff never notices. And because you rinse it through with water, there is no salt left sitting in the trap to cause trouble later. It is safe for plastic pipe, safe for metal pipe. And here is the part the septic folks want to hear. It is safe for your septic tank too. That small amount will not kill off the good bacteria doing the work down there. Compare that to the jug of harsh chemical drain cleaner a lot of you have under the sink right now. I will get into why that stuff scares me later, and it is a good reason. But for now, just know this salt routine is about as gentle as anything you can do to a drain. You could do it 100 nights running and never once cause harm. All right, number 3, and this one is the actual routine. This is the meat of it. So make a mental note. Before bed, when the kitchen is done and nobody is running the water again, you take about half a cup of plain salt. Table salt is fine. Pour it straight down the drain, into the mouth of it. Then you heat up some water, and here is where I want you to be a little careful. So listen close. You want water good and hot. Just off a boil from the kettle is perfect. But before you pour it, run the tap hot for a few seconds first, so your trap is not sitting bone dry and stone cold. That matters more if you have got PVC pipe, which most newer homes do. Warm it up a touch. Then pour the hot water in, slow and steady, right on top of the salt, 2 or 3 cups worth. Not a big splash all at once. A slow, steady pour, so you are not slinging hot water back up at your own hands and face. Ask me how I know to tell you that one. Then you walk away and go to bed. That is it. The whole job, and it took you 30 seconds. You just did for free the kind of thing a lot of folks pay good money for. No chemicals, no tools, no mess. Now stick with me, because number 4 takes this same routine and makes it stronger, using one more thing you have already got in the cupboard. Number 4 is the upgrade, and it is my favorite because it costs you about a nickel. Baking soda, the same box that has been sitting open in your fridge. Here is how you work it in. Before you pour the salt, or right along with it, you add about half a cup of baking soda down the drain too. Salt and soda together, right down the hole. Then do the hot water pour just the way I walked you through. Now let me tell you what the baking soda brings, because it is doing more than one job. For one, it is a little abrasive itself, so it scrubs right alongside the salt. 2 scrubbers instead of 1. But more than that, baking soda is a base, and old grease turns sour and acidic as it sits. The soda neutralizes that. It cuts the smell coming up out of the drain, and it helps lift the softened grease up off the pipes so the water carries it away, instead of letting it settle right back down. So count what you have working down there. The salt scouring, the soda scrubbing and lifting, and the hot water melting the film. That is a 3-man crew on your line, all while you sleep. And that word sleep is not just a figure of speech. The timing is the real secret here, and it is the whole point of what comes next. Quick word before I get into that timing. If this is already saving you a plumber bill, that is exactly what I do here on the Vintage Pipefitter every week. Real repairs and cheap fixes that took me a lifetime on the job to learn. Subscribing is free and takes one tap, and it keeps these walkthroughs turning up the next time something breaks. Now, number 5. So here is number 5, the overnight soak, and this is the part that makes the whole thing actually work. This is why Uncle Ray did it at bedtime and not at noon. Ask yourself, what happens if you pour all this down at lunchtime? You rinse a cup, you fill a pot, somebody runs the disposal, and all that water washes your salt and soda right on down the line before any of it has had a chance to sit still and work. You just flushed your own medicine down the drain. But at night, after the last dish is done, that drain goes quiet. 6 hours, 8 hours, maybe 10 if you sleep good. Nobody touches it. So your salt and soda and hot water settle down into the trap and into that first stretch of pipe, which is exactly where grease loves to collect. And they sit there, in direct contact with that greasy film, working on it all night long. Time is what does the real work. The longer that mix stays pressed up against the grease, the more of it loosens and lets go. It is the same reason you leave a burnt, crusty pot to soak overnight instead of scrubbing it dry. You let the soak do the hard part for you. Then, in the morning, when you run the tap for coffee, all that loosened gunk flushes away clean and gone. That is why bedtime. That is the whole trick, and it costs you nothing but the half-minute before you hit the light. Now, number 6. This is the one I promised you, the one hardly anybody thinks about, and it is the honest reason drains clog in the first place. Number 6. Here is the thing most people never quite understand about a clogged kitchen drain, and once it clicks, you will never look at that sink the same way again. A drain does not clog all at once. It is not a light switch that flips off one day out of nowhere. What happens is slow and quiet, and it starts with a film. Every time you rinse a greasy plate or pour a little bacon fat down there, figuring the hot water will carry it off, A thin layer of grease cools on the inside of your pipe and sticks. Just a hair of it. You cannot see it or feel it, but it is there. The next night, a little more sticks on top of that. The night after, a little more still. Now here is the ugly part. That greasy film is like fly paper for everything else that comes down. Coffee grounds, bits of food, hair, soap scum. It all catches on the sticky grease and builds and starts to narrow the opening down. 6 months go by, a year. And now you have got a plug the size of a grown man's fist in your line. And you are calling a plumber and handing over $150 to snake out something that started life as a film you could have wiped clean with salt in 10 seconds a night. That is the whole game. When you do this routine every night, you are not clearing clogs. Let me say that plain. You are stopping them from ever forming. You are scouring off that fresh film every night, before it ever gets the chance to grab hold of the first coffee ground. Between you and me, that is the whole difference between the folks who never once think about their drains and the folks who fight a backed-up sink every year. Same houses, same pipes. One little habit. Number 7 is where I make good on calling this the cheapest maintenance there is, and I am going to talk real dollars with you. Number 7. Folks always ask me which kind of salt to buy for this, so let me settle it. The honest answer is, it barely matters. Plain table salt, the round blue box kind you already have in the cupboard, works just fine and does everything I have described. If you happen to have coarse kosher salt or big crystal sea salt, those scour a touch better because the chunkier grains have a little more bite. Use those if you have got them, but do not run out and buy anything fancy. You do not need it. Now here is the part I love, the part that lets me call this the cheapest maintenance in your whole house. If you want to do this every night and never think about the cost, go buy a bag of plain water softener salt or a box of ice cream salt from the hardware store. A few dollars for a bag big enough to last you a year or more of nightly treatments. Do the arithmetic with me. That works out to pennies a night. A couple of dollars a year, all in, to keep your main kitchen line running clear. Now set that next to one plumber visit for a clogged drain, which around my parts runs you $150, maybe $200, before the man has even opened his bag. Between you and me, in 30 years in this trade, I have never found a cheaper insurance policy than a bag of salt and 30 seconds before bed. Number 8 is for anybody with a garbage disposal, because that gadget is a different animal. Number 8 is for the disposal crowd, because a garbage disposal gets greasy and it gets stinky, and salt is perfect for both. But you work it a little different down there. Here is what I do. Instead of salt and hot water, I clean a disposal out with salt and ice. I know, it sounds odd, but stay with me. You drop a good handful of salt and a couple of handfuls of ice cubes right down into the disposal and run it with cold water going for a bit. The ice and the salt tumble around in there together and scour the grinding chamber and the grinders, knocking the built-up grease off all those parts down inside that you could never reach with a sponge. It is like sandblasting the inside of the thing, and it is safe for the unit. Cold water for this one, not hot, because the cold keeps any loose grease firm so it grinds up and washes out instead of smearing around. And if you want to knock the smell out while you are at it, cut up a lemon and send the peels through after. That leaves it fresh. Now, for a bad odor coming from deeper down, some folks run salt and vinegar. Put down half a cup of salt, let it sit, then pour in a cup of white vinegar, and it will fizz up and cut the funk. All of these are cousins of the same idea. Salt doing the scrubbing where no brush is ever going to reach. Number 9 is where I have to be honest with you about what this stuff will not do, because I am not in the business of selling you a miracle. All right, number 9, and this is the honest one, because I would not be much of a tradesman if I sent you off thinking a little salt fixes every problem under the sun. It does not. This routine is maintenance. It is prevention. It keeps a healthy, open drain healthy and open. What it is not is a rescue. So let me be plain. If you have already got a sink standing full of water that will not go down, salt is not going to save you tonight. That is a real clog, and it needs a plunger or a hand snake run down the line. Or, yes, sometimes a call to somebody like me. And that is money well spent. When it is a true blockage, you cannot budge. Do not stand there dumping salt on a dead drain praying for a miracle. Match the tool to the problem. And here is one more thing, a real safety point. So hear me good. If you have already poured a jug of that harsh chemical drain cleaner down there, and now it is sitting in standing water because it did not work, do not go adding other things on top of it. And do not go reaching your hand or a plunger down into that water. That chemical is genuinely dangerous. It can splash back up and burn your skin and your eyes. That is exactly the stuff I steer clear of, and it is a big part of why I lean on plain salt. Salt is the thing you can do 100 nights running and never once worry about. So learn the difference between keeping a good drain clear and clearing a dead one. Get that straight, and you save yourself both the money and the grief. Now stay right there, because I have got one bonus tip left, and it is going to make everything I taught you work even harder. So here is your bonus, and it might be the simplest one of the bunch. Think about when your kitchen drain takes the very most abuse. It is the big cooking days, is it not? Thanksgiving, a fish fry out back. A Sunday where you render off a whole pound of bacon for the family. Those are the nights the most grease goes down that line, whether you meant it to or not. So those are the exact nights to double up. On a big cooking day, do your salt routine that same night without fail, and use a full cup instead of your usual half. The thinking is simple. You just sent the most grease of the month down that pipe, so you scour the hardest right behind it, before it has all night to cool and set up hard. Match your effort to the mess you made. A normal night gets a light routine. A big, greasy holiday gets the heavy one. Do that, and you will be the one person on your whole street who never once stands over a backed-up sink on Thanksgiving morning wondering what went wrong. That is the whole thing. Salt, hot water, and timing. Thanks for spending it with me. If you got something from it, come join us over on the Vintage Pipefitter, where each week I share one more repair from a lifetime with a wrench in my hand. That know-how keeps your money in your pocket. Subscribe, and I will see you next time. Sleep good and pour that salt.